Good morning and welcome to the final 2020-21 episode of the Three-Man Weave College Basketball Show hosted by SBR. That's right, guys. Obviously, there are no games going on, Ky and Matt, but we got to do one more. Give the people one last show here, looking ahead at the 2022 futures market. That's the goal today, really discussing some of the futures, see what's out there. If there's anything we find undervalued, any teams we seem to like at this point. Obviously, a lot of movement still to happen in terms of transfers and pro decisions. Guys, this is going to be the show that is, people can watch for the next 6 months. We got to leave a lasting impression here. Ky, Matt, you guys ready to charm the folks?
Yeah, it's a lot of shelf time, Jim. Shelf life, I believe, is the industry term. So, yeah, I'm excited for people to watch this video constantly. It's going to gather 100,000 views, make us YouTube stars. Yes. Matt, I'm excited to talk futures. I don't dabble a whole lot as much as Jim in the futures market, and it is very early, but still stuff to talk about today for sure.
Yes, Jim will be our beacon of light, the guy we will follow.
I have future Sherpa.
Yes, you are, Jim. You are the shepherd. Me and Ky are your sheep, as are all followers and viewers today. Chat mob, follow Jim into the depths of wherever. Trust him blindly. His future ROI is high the last few years. I've been tracking it. Anecdotally, not actually. I don't have a spreadsheet in front of me, but it's been pretty good. I have some picks of my own personal thoughts, but generally, I will be trailing you, Mr. Jimbo.
Oh, I love it. All right, guys, before we get into it, real quick, make sure to hit the like button while you are watching. I don't care if you're watching this in July of 2021. Hit that like button. We appreciate it. SBR appreciates it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/SBR Sports. And check out all the other wonderful shows that SBR is putting out there. They've got a daily baseball show. They've got soccer that they're talking. They've got some golf shows on there. All kinds of great resources. NBA, Jamming with J Money, a lot of great stuff on the SBR YouTube channel. It's not just us. We'd like to set up and tee up the rest of our colleagues here. So make sure to check all of that out. Subscribe to the channel and figure out when all those shows are coming. All right, guys, let's do it. Let's talk futures. Let's start with, we kind of tiered this off in terms of our outline. Let's start with the favorites. You're looking at some of the top teams here in terms of the odds. Gonzaga, Michigan, Baylor, UCLA. Sound familiar? A lot of teams very good this year, but also Duke up in this region, Kentucky up in this grouping, Ohio State, who lost in the first round of March Madness this year, Florida State, Kansas. Matt, I'm going to start with you. In this group of favorites, which teams are you looking at?
Gonzaga. Let's just start off right there. I don't think that's anything to do with actually, it could be partially to do with our stubborn love and affection for the Zigzags after their tough, heartbreaking, not really heartbreaking, I guess it was never really close, but it did seem like a deflating loss there in the championship game. But Jim, Mark Few, this is no longer. I mean, this is a true blue blood. They don't rebuild, they reload. Projected to have Andrew Nembhard back, Joel Kai, our Frenchman favorite. And if Chet Holmgren turns into this star that we all think he will, I mean, this could be an awesome front court. And my goodness, if Drew Timme comes back, that's part of the value play you got to make with these futures. That a lot of the prices reflect very loosely who's got to return. Yeah, very speculative. So if you can dig into those crystal balls, you kind of pick where certain transfers may fall, where certain recruits might land. That's going to give you a ton of value. And right now, I think this is a top 5 team, even if Timme does not return. If Timme were to come back, Ky, I don't see how you don't have the Zags #1 next year. So at a plus 800 price, pretty good future dabble right now.
Yeah, if Timme returns, Matthew, and if they do land Chet Holmgren, I think you're looking at a team that is more head and shoulders above the field than it was this year. I don't think the top is going to be as elite like the Baylor Gonzaga that we saw this past year. Gonzaga compared to everybody else heading into the year as of right now, I think they are head and shoulders above everyone. I mean, heck, yeah, they lost the national championship, but they lost the national championship. They were 31-1. They were amazing this year, obviously. Still have a ton of talent coming back. Now they've been there as well. So I do think they are the favorite for a reason. And 5-1 and 9-1, somewhere around there, that's probably a fair price right now and probably worth a dabble, Jim.
Yeah, it's not elite value. They're clearly the #1 in terms of value. Let me ask you this, Ky. Are you worried, or are you just kind of brushing it off a small sample, that Gonzaga is 0-4 against top 3 seeds in the last 4 tournaments? Of course, of those losses. There's Baylor in the championship game, North Carolina in the championship game, Texas Tech in a crazy Elite Eight game that, Texas Tech ended up making the final. Are you taking anything away from that? Does the ceiling have a problem with Gonzaga right now?
No, I'm not.
Agreed.
They lost in the Elite
Eight
championship. Like, yeah. Right.
And again, I think, Jim, with the way they schedule now, they were a pretty good bet to make a 1 seed. So I think you have to separate the times when they didn't get a 1 seed versus the most recent this season. If you're talking about futures, you want a team that's a pretty good bet to get to the Elite Eight, Final Four, and that's where you can start to enable those hedges. So that's how you kind of have to think about this. And Gonzaga, man, awfully safe bet to get to the Final Four. And that's when you can start to implement some last 2-game hedges if you're taking a title future, which that's what I'm endorsing there at plus 800.
Not a lot of places with odds to make the Final Four. DraftKings does have them plus 200, so that is telling you they're pretty solid or decent bet right now to make the Final Four. Anything else in this tier, guys? Anybody else besides Gonzaga? I think if you're getting speculative here, Duke, Matthew, could be interesting just because if they get Pat Baldwin, they're bringing in 3 of the top 6 players in this recruiting class, along with Trevor Keels, bringing back Jeremy Roach. I think there's definitely a chance that the Blue Devils bounce back, but I'm not jumping on that one yet. I'm going to try to wait and see what happens with Baldwin.
Yeah, it's curious to see what the crop of freshmen do in 2021-22. Overall, a relatively down year for freshmen. Obviously, that removing the elite blue chippers, your Cades, your Jalen Suggs from the equation, a lot of that was due to COVID. I think you'll see a sort of bounce back kind of from those 5 stars this season, and Duke has we got 3 of the top 10 dudes. That's a pretty good foundation to build from, on top of what they already have coming back, which is a decent veteran core. We can say veteran in quotations because that just means sophomores and juniors.
Yeah, I don't trust Duke a whole lot yet. Yeah, this year, obviously, you might have to throw this year out with the whole COVID situation, but I'm kind of waiting to see. I wouldn't put a future on them. Kind of going down the list, these favorites here. Michigan, 8-1, 12-1. I need to see. I don't think it's a good value right now.
No.
Point guard questions, youth questions. Obviously, Dickinson's great. Obviously, Juwan Howard's great. But I think there's enough uncertainty there, especially when you look at the Big Ten as a whole. It could be very tough. Ohio State, for instance, is a team that I really think is going to be good next year. But when you have Purdue at more attractive odds, and I see Purdue and Ohio State pretty similar, I'd rather take Purdue in that case. UCLA, I don't trust, Jim. And Baylor, I think, is a big reach to get there again.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of value in this tier, to be honest.
No,
I would probably
I agree.
Get something down on Gonzaga, but not a ton at the current price, and then try to figure out some other plays from there. And with that, guys, let's go to what I have dubbed the intermediates. These are kind of your 20-1 up to 40-1. Some of these teams, including Ky, you just mentioned Purdue, so Alabama, Illinois, Houston, Michigan State, Arkansas, Maryland, a team a lot of people are hyped on after they got some 2 big transfers. Virginia, Louisville, West Virginia. Guys, I like the first 2 I mentioned. Ky, you mentioned Purdue. I think Purdue is a definite top 10 team next year. And I like the fact that it's going to be a very high floor with actually a high ceiling if Jaden Ivey and the other freshmen take the leap that I think they're capable of. I'll save my Bama talk. I'll let you respond about Purdue first. Ky, you mentioned them already. What do you love about Purdue?
Yeah, that rising sophomore class, Jim. What was it? 4 different players won freshman Big East or Big Ten player of the week this year. Yeah. I mean, they're very good. And Travion Williams likely comes back. Stefanovic might come back as well. That team is going to be very, very good. Matt Painter is a coach we can all get behind as well. Does Kansas fit into this tier, Jim, or are they in the favorite tier for you?
I kind of did it top 10, but yeah, Kansas is right in this grouping.
That's a team I would look to make a future bet. 18-1, 25-1. There's too much moving with Duke and Kentucky, Matt, but I think Kansas is more set in stone right now, and their roster is shaping up very nicely.
I agree. I like to compare, teams we like value and contextualize that next to teams that we don't love, right? So UCLA and UCLA and Michigan, where I think we're sort of, me and Ky at least, are down on them. We talked about Ohio State. We talked about Purdue. I think Nova's probably in that favorite tier. The ones I did want to talk about that kind of falls in that 20-1, 40-1 group, Jim. Louisville and Syracuse. I looked closer at Louisville's roster, and I guess I didn't realize that they're going to likely bring almost everyone back. They have David Johnson. He probably steps into the point guard stead. A big fan of his upside. They had a lot of injuries this year, basically ravaged the core. Samuel Williamson, Malik Williams arguably their 3 most valuable players next season. We've seen in years past how teams coming off big injury-riddled seasons are likely undervalued heading into the following year. I think that's the case with Louisville. You're getting a great coach in Chris Mack as well. So the Cardinal at 20-1, 25-1, a couple books would certainly be worth a taste.
I mean, Matt, I could get 50-1 on Louisville right now.
Yeah, 50-1. Oh, wow. I'm looking at DraftKings, so it has them 20. So DraftKings has them.
I sent you a spreadsheet with all the prices. Just open that.
Hey, this is this morning. Maybe people have been hammering Louisville. They probably they hacked my notes last night, and the odds have dropped.
So I also like Alabama. I think that team is loaded with talent. They do lose some key seniors, Herb Jones, John Petty, but they're bringing in even more talent. Amari Burnett, a former 5-star recruit. Getting Charles Bediako, a big man, borderline 4 to 5-star. And as the chat mentioned, there's a chance they get Noah Gurley from Furman. It's just another skilled forward who can shoot threes. And we know they like to shoot threes in Tuscaloosa under Nate Oates. I think that team's going to be deadly with Shackelford back and Primo back, Keon Ellis, Javon Quinterly. It is a laundry list of talent. I have already bet Alabama, full disclosure, at 25-1. I am a big fan of the Tide next season.
Yeah, Jim, I'll throw in Virginia too. You mentioned Virginia. I think that's a fairly good bet at 40-1. They should be at the top of the ACC again, at least top 3 or 4. Added Armand Franklin yesterday. Kihei Clark's a 4th-year point guard. Rising sophomores, Trey Murphy taking a more central scoring role. I think they're going to be pretty good.
Wait, Jim, real quick, back to your point about the favorite tier not as appetizing. This little intermediate tier is probably where instead of putting 1 or 2 bigger bets in that upper top 10, top 15 group, spread your, dabble eggs in lots of baskets in this 20 to 50-1 group, right? We'll talk about Memphis here in a second. That's, I think, my favorite bet on the board. But like I said, Syracuse, Louisville, Maryland, Jim, you mentioned Ky, Virginia. I would rather go, cut your unit size in half, spread it out more of the teams in this group as opposed to, playing 3 or 4 in that top 10 group.
Yep, that's kind of always been my philosophy. I usually pick out one of the favorites, and then a couple in that intermediate, maybe 1 or 2. And then hit some dark horses. And let's do that, guys. Let's talk dark horses. Matt, you teed yourself up. I'm going to let you alley your own oop, or oop your own alley, I guess. Talk to me about Memphis, because I am right with you. I have already bet them 80-1. Why do we like Memphis?
It's funny. We like them for the same reasons we like them coming into this season or last season, whatever we're saying. I guess we should talk about last season.
We were like the Memphis haters 2 seasons ago, and now we're like, we love Memphis.
Switch, flip. Yeah. And we keep that switch on up, I guess, in this case. You just look at what they did the last 2 months of the year. I mean, they only lost 2 games, both to Houston by a combined 5 points. They were dominant defensively down the stretch, won the NIT. You can say the NITs leads to teams being overvalued coming into next year. I look at that as increasing the sample size of 4 more games, giving me more confidence that what we saw prior to postseason, that this team's legit. And they have elite talent, experienced talent. I mean, they have, 2 5-stars and 4 4-stars that are going to be sophomores, juniors. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just don't see that. And we don't think Petty's a great coach, but he's a good enough coach, I think, to justify taking a 40-1 flyer on a super talented and older team.
Well, as high as 80-1, as Jim mentioned. Yeah. But yes, that's
line
arguably
shot, Matthew.
Got a line shot. That's right.
Line shot.
That's arguably a top 15 roster priced as a top 30 team right now. So there's inherent value there. Offense is going to be the question once again, as it is under Penny every year. It improved a little bit last season, but still a huge question mark. They were really talented last year too, and they made the NIT. But it's the same roster, like you guys said. They're adding Timberlake. They're adding Davion Warren. There's tons of talent. There's tons to like. They're going to be elite defensively again. They're probably going to be the best defensive team in the country once again. So yeah, Memphis is a great bet there. Texas, guys, is a team that we haven't mentioned though. As high as 50-1. That's worth jumping on to me. You saw the first domino fall with Jalen Tyson coming over from Texas Tech to Texas for Chris Beard, top 35 recruit. He's going to get more pieces. Some combo of those former guards are going to stay with him, possibly Greg Brown, Jim, and Chris Beard just brings that program to a whole new level. Texas is a great bet, in my opinion.
Yep, Beard plus the staff that he's got there. I mean, we saw what happened with Michigan when they brought in, no shade at John Beilein at all, but they were immediately really good. They brought in a couple transfers, and I think Texas is going to do the exact same thing. That's going to be a lethal program. You're not going to see them at 50-1 many off seasons with Chris Beard at the helm. Right. I'll just put it that way.
Yep.
A couple others I liked here, Matt. You briefly mentioned Syracuse earlier. I'm usually a Syracuse hater in the futures market, but at some of the prices, there's an 80 out there. There's a 75 at William Hill, 75 to 1. I think that's pretty solid for the Orange. Some of the additions that they've made, and they're going to be one of the best shooting teams in the country next year. The zone started to figure it out a little bit when he played more length inside. When Jesse Edwards was on the court, the defense was a lot better.
Yeah.
And then I also put a little on Virginia Tech at 75 to 1. That was kind of an outlier price compared to some of the others. There's 20 and 25 to 1 on Virginia Tech. I would not take that. But if you're able to get access to one of the higher prices for the Hokies, I think Mike Young has a lot of talent coming back as well.
Yeah, I'll throw in one more there. Texas Tech at 80 to 1, as high as 80 to 1. If McClung, Shannon, McCullough all return, we'll see how that roster fluxes. But Mark Adams has been there under Beard every year. He's been at Texas Tech and at Little Rock as well. Lots of head coaching experience. So if he keeps that roster together, that's a worthy flyer. They're going to be a tournament team for sure.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Indiana now, or is that
no? We're putting them in long shot because of where they've qualified. So let's go to long shots. And yeah, Matt, we got to start there. Your Hoosiers, your IU Hoosiers. I'm mystified. This is one of the wider spreads in terms of odds between teams that you'll see. MGM out here in Vegas has them 35 to 1. Indiana at Westgate, though, 200 to 1. And I think that is a very worthy price. With Trace Jackson Davis back, they've got Race Thompson back out of the portal, Christian Lander back out of the portal. They added Xavier Johnson from Pitt, Parker Stewart from UT Martin / Pitt. I think this team's top 25, top 20 even, and at 200 to 1, man, I'm going to find out what we got with Woodson and an All-American here.
Yeah, you have a great foundation and one of the most underrated front courts in the entire nation. You got to wonder how they're going to fit in with Woodson's supposedly more modern style of offense. You saw a lot of two big lineups with Thompson and TJD playing together under Archie, which I think worked pretty well. I think Woodson finds a way to make that stick in his first season. But the key thing is that IU finally has dynamic guards, Ky, that can make shots and make plays. Xavier Johnson, he's been somewhat inefficient, but he's a guy who can create his own off the dribble, set guys up. He was basically an NBA prospect before he had a tough sophomore season. So there's some, value there. Parker Stewart, lights out shooter, scorer, can do a lot of different things as well. Run the offense, sort of a Rob Finney insurance since that project has basically flamed out at this point. And a lot of solid pieces around that. I think that's great value. I'm with Jim.
Yeah, I wish I had that. I mean, FanDuel and DraftKings are like 50 to 1.
Yeah, I'm
sorry. You let me know if you want to taste that 200.
Hey, every chat mob, Jim will be taking ticket.
That's not
inquiries.
True.
Yes, he will.
I will not be doing.
He's so
chat
generous.
mob.
So nice of you to offer, Jim.
Yeah, I have nothing to add here. Obviously, that's a great a bet at 201. My gosh, this team could be good. Mike Woodson could be a very good, successful coach. There's a lot of hate for him for some reason, but he's done a great job already, just keeping the roster together and keeping those pieces that they had transferring in. So, Matt, I know you want to talk Bonnie's as a long shot, 200 to 1. I mean, long shots are long shots for a reason. So these teams are not going to win the national championship, but maybe they go for a run. So I'll give you Bonnie's, but I'll throw in Arizona State really quick if you want to get cute. 200 to 1. They're getting players. He's accumulating talent. Bobby Hurley, like he usually does. Marion Jackson, Jay Heath, Luther Muhammad, AJ Brahma. Those are all
Blockye.
Yeah, solid transfers plus a good freshman, and then Jalen Graham coming back, who's a good front court player. So if you want to get super cute and take Arizona State 200 to 1, Matt, I wouldn't shame you. But you're a Bonnie's guy, I assume.
Jim, what price did you get Loyola preseason last year or this year? Last year?
This year I got him coming into this year. I had him 1,500 to 1.
Okay, so yeah, I'm trying to. I kind of see similarities between the Bonnies and Loyola. Slow, defensive-minded, continuity, experience, no holes in the roster. You question the upside, maybe, but Loyola basically, debunked that pretty quickly. They skyrocketed in the top 10 at KenPom and played pretty damn close to that level, as we saw in the tournament, just dismantling Illinois. The Bonnies shoot well against LSU. I mean, I think they're just outclassed, out-talented against a tough matchup in that. I think they could have made a deeper run. To get all those guys back, that could be a special team. And Jim, as you mentioned on our podcast, they are adding depth pieces, one of the few blemishes in that roster. And Mark Schmidt's a guy we like to bet on. So yeah, I won't be the Bonnie boy to the degree I was this season next year, but I think right now, looking ahead, probably worth taking that value, as Ky mentioned.
Yeah, I took Bonnie's 300 to 1. That's not available anymore. Unfortunately, I can't totally recommend it, but I mean 200 to 1. That's a top
200
20 team
or higher,
basically
that's
everywhere. Yeah. All right. What else in that? There's a couple others there. VCU, if they get Bones Highland back, they're at the same price, 300 to 1. They were very good in the A10 this year. Could be even better. A lot of youth on that squad, so there's upside.
I like that.
Guys, Drake 500 to 1. They've already said they're going to bring everybody back except Yesufu. All the seniors are returning. They were fantastic this year before Penn went down, before Hempill went down. I think 500 to 1. If you want to take a little taste of that, throw $5 on it. It's not the worst investment of $5 in the world. And then also Colorado State too, similar boat. It's similar to Bonaventure. Bring everybody back. There's young talent there that I think has upside. They're available at 500 to 1 in some places. I think that is also a worthy look for just $5 or $10. Why not?
Jim, there's rumors of Richmond returning everybody. So you get sort of the Wisconsin 25-year-olds out on the floor. And they're going for, I think, as high as 1,000 to 1, but 300 to 1, something like that. There's no reason they couldn't win the A10 next year if they get all those guys back.
Yeah, I mean, it's if it's going to be the same team this year that was getting top 25 hype but got derailed by injuries and COVID, I think you kind of throw this year out for Richmond. So if you liked them last year, you have to like them again this year. And at those odds, sure, why not?
I like that. Jim, I like VCU as well. Everyone gets so caught up in analyzing VCU's roster that every year they just have guys you don't know about just come in and fill holes.
And they bring like everybody back.
And they bring everyone back, right? So it's not even like you have to assess new players. It's just you don't look at the roster and go, like they have all these elite scorers, but they defend, they're solid. And if Bones is leading the charge, that's a safe bet. Agree with Richmond as well, Ky. They're basically a top 25 team pre-COVID. I think that's just, you argue that they're going to be undervalued. They are in the current prices. I got two more long shots I want to throw in. Notre Dame at plus 10,000. Projected to bring, nope, Ky disagrees. Ky's wrong. They bring
either.
They bring every year. They bring everyone back. They started to play well
Jawan
down the stretch.
They're not a shot blocker anymore.
Yeah, Atkins isn't a shot blocker, but I think he's a net neutral replacement just with his what he does offensively. So yeah, I guess they could struggle on D. That's a fair concern, but pretty solid veteran core at a pretty much a Hail Mary price. And then Washington State, Jim, speaking of Hail Marys, this team could be sneaky awesome in the Pac-12 with Noah Williams. We saw him explode down the stretch. They have a phenomenal rising sophomore class, a lot of whom were banged up and hurt this season, that people probably haven't seen their best version. And they have another great score. I'm blanking on who the other transfer they brought in was. Tyrell Roberts, the UC San Diego, who's a phenomenal shooter, absolute fireball from deep. People will know his name. No one does yet because he sat out this year due to COVID. Obviously, Washington State's won the national title. Ky is a pretty far-fetched conclusion, but man, at that value, you could see them making the Sweet 16, and at that point, you could start to hedge pretty safely.
I mean, I don't think they're going to make the Sweet 16. Maybe not even the tournament, but yeah, why not? If you're feeling froggy,
and I am,
these are really like
baby.
$5 to win 10,000.
Right. We're talking plus 10,000. It's just insane.
$5. Like you just buy one less drink at the bar or something like that. The other really super long shot, guys, that I did put $5 on. Now that we're talking about it, is Nevada at 2,000 to 1. So 5 to win 10,000. They bring back one of the better backcourts in college basketball in Sherfield and Cambridge. They bring over Addison Patterson, a former top 50 recruit from Oregon. So that 1 through 3 is fantastic. Will Baker, a former 5-star recruit coming in. Warren Washington also in the front court, formerly of Oregon State. I think that team's pretty solid. It's still Steve Alford, so I'm not like jumping up and down for it. But I like the backcourt a lot. I like talent for that price. I will put I don't mind putting like 10 different $5 long shots out there because if you lose them all, it's not a big pain off your back. And if you have one do well, like Loyola Chicago did this year for me, it's great, and you have a great hedging opportunity. So I kind of recommend that $5 have fun with it approach.
Or you could get a $5 foot long, Jim. It's up to you.
It's true.
$5. Is that still a thing?
I don't know.
I think inflation has sort of ruined it.
Question about Kansas State, by the way. Jim, I don't know if you have Kansas State's odds. Question in the chat from Andrew.
I do not. It doesn't strike me as a team I want to touch, but I know Matt is a big Kansas State boy.
Well, they have Mark Smith, and you cannot fail if you have Mark Smith on your roster. So Wildcats, Matthew. 200
to 1 is what I'm seeing.
I thought Nigel Pack was going to maybe transfer or go pro. Was I misguided in that, or is he coming back? He's the awesome sophomore point guard. I love what he did, and they were hurt all year. And Ky, we saw them be feisty against some big time.
They beat Baylor. They beat the national champs. I don't know what else you want.
Who beat Gonzaga by 1 million. So transitive property, you could argue Kansas State's better than Gonzaga. So you're getting awesome value at this price. I won't argue that though.
Wait, did you say Kansas State beat Baylor?
No, they played them. They didn't beat Baylor. They played them close though.
I was like, that didn't happen. They did. They hung on. They hung around. They lost by 6 in the tournament.
They
also lost by 48 earlier in the year to them.
What am I thinking? Pre-COVID. I'll figure it out.
Baylor lost to Oklahoma State, and what else did they lose to? Kansas. Those are the only 2 losses.
Kansas, not Kansas State.
Question about Temple in the chat. No, I have no interest in Temple.
Ooh, actually,
I'm not a big Aaron McKee guy. I don't think that roster's very intriguing, to be honest.
I think it's solid. Dunn could take off. Battle could take off. I like Forrester. I don't know. But we're talking about national title odds. Yeah, no, can't get there.
Yeah, I'm not quite there on them, unfortunately. If you're going to bet the AAC, stick to Memphis. That's our method. Yeah. Our AAC recommendation. All right. Anything else, guys? We've gone through basically every tier. We've hit a lot of teams. I think that's about it. Should we do a big full season wrap up here?
Yeah, let's do it, Jim.
All right. Well, yeah. Thank you to everyone in the chat mob, both today and for the entire season, for tuning in. It has definitely made the show what it is. It's certainly given us a lot to ponder, a lot to think about every day, especially as we, there's some positive thoughts, but every so often a negative thought in there too. But that just keeps us going, Matthew.
It fuels us.
Get that hate, that flack. We will hopefully be back doing this again next season, talking daily picks again. So tune in for that. But yeah, just a big tip of the cap, gratitude to the chat mob for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button one final time on our college basketball show on your way out the door here. Matt, Ky, any final thoughts from you?
I'm too emotional. I'm too choked up, and I'll start breaking down here. I have vitamin C playing off in the distance, so you can kind of hear it as we go on.
Okay, well, that's a good song.
Remember.
It's a great song. 8th grade. Well, that's not when it came out, but it was played during our 8th grade graduation.
Yeah.
Anyways, no, I want to say thank you to SBR. Thank you to the chat mob. Thank you for tuning in all these days. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun being on video every single day for first time in our college basketball careers. So this was a good learning experience, and hopefully we got better throughout the year being on camera. Khalil, what do we bet during the off season? Well, Matthew's a baseball guru.
I bet in the bases, baby.
I take off pretty much. I dabble in certain events, but I am not going to claim to be good at anything else besides college basketball. Jim,
I bet WNBA, but other stuff just for small, like literally fun money, stuff that, casual. I would never recommend listening to me or taking any advice in other sports. So, yeah, just I stay involved in betting just to keep it fun. But college basketball is where we actually really we try to grind out a profit here. All right, that wraps it up, folks. Thank you again for tuning in all season. We've said it a bunch already. Hit that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. A lot of great stuff still coming from SBR throughout the season, or the off season, I guess. NBA stuff, soccer, baseball, golf, anything you really could want. Make sure to check out the channel. With that, this is the 3-Man Weave signing off from our SBR show. Guys, it was glorious. Hopefully we'll see you next season.